Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Louise.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Doing well. It's nice to see you in our
Nice
little,
to see you. We are, um, okay, this is our last.
yeah.
No, we have one more because then we'll have the beginning of the end and the epilogue to
Yep.
read. So right now, yeah, here we are.
Georgia's alive.
Penultimate episode of The Baby Thief. Whew, can't say I'm sorry to see this one go. No offense, Barbara, if you ever come across our podcast, but
No offense, Barbara, but see ya, Georgia Tan.
there's
She's
only
just
so much
a
time you can
monster.
spend with a monster. And
Yeah.
we've spent an entire season with this bitch. So I'm sorry. I said it.
Yay. I'm glad you did.
Okay.
When I closed my book last night, I told Bill, I'm like, you don't know this woman, what she's done. Like, he's like, wow. And I'm like, no, really. And I'm just done with her. I am angry. Well, so she
Well,
gets
here we are for
into,
Georgia
yeah,
Lies. The first thing I highlighted, of course, this book was written, let's just be clear, in 2013. So it's
that's
been
right.
10 years.
Yeah.
So not a ton has changed.
No.
I don't think it's that different now, but one thing she did say, like, because her daughter Beth, it was time
Mm-hmm.
to look for her birth mother, and she writes, finding her mother would have been difficult, maybe impossible, if Beth had been a typical American adoptee, since
Right.
American adoptees are legally forbidden of knowing their birth parents' names.
Yep. And she
Americans.
that's exactly right. That this goes into she had a long understanding that American adoption is particularly closed and secretive, but it wasn't until she began studying Georgia Tan's impact on the institution she realized that European countries like Germany, England, Scotland, Wales, Belgium, Holland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland allow adoptees access to their original birth certificates. And she
Hmm.
didn't even know. And then some places help people actually in Asia, China, Japan, help people find them.
Yeah, the United States is one of a very few countries that
Yeah.
legally forbid adopted adults to know the knowledge of their birth parents.
It just goes back to treating adoptees like children. I think about it so much more than I ever have recently, the last few weeks. Like, I don't know why it's really hitting me over the head all the time. Like, how did I not get this concept that I had a birth certificate, a name, and then I was changed? And one thing she brings up, the last time this happened in history was through slavery
Right.
when they
An adoptee
changed.
said
Yeah.
that
Yes.
where that yes.
Yeah. That slavery is the last time they changed people's names and took their identity. And it's like, whoa, I don't, it's just, we
Yeah,
know
that
this, but
well, because
it's mind blowing.
we didn't even think about it. I think you're
Oh,
just, because well, first of all, it just was in the public consciousness
yeah.
of being a win-win, you
Yeah.
know, and nobody ever really bothered to dig deeper. I mean, they did, but it wasn't loud voices or large,
No.
people would feel weird and then,
There was
but
a
it's a
social worker she
thing.
mentioned while you're talking about that. There was a social worker she mentioned that had that worked in she said something like I knew that this was just the right thing to do. I encouraged hundreds of unwed mothers to give away their babies. This is just what we did. I was doing the right thing. And then she met with someone later who asked her, he came back and he was not like a crazy
Well,
person.
right, because it was drilled into their heads that
Mm-hmm.
that this is a wonderful thing for everybody, and so therefore, if any adoptee, pitches a fit and wants to know anything about themselves, they're crazy.
They're
It was
crazy.
kind of the message,
Yeah. So the
until
man,
this one
yeah,
kid a
yeah,
19, 20-year-old came to
yeah,
her.
really together,
And he's
knew
like, I
his,
know you can't give me the information.
yeah. And it changed her thinking. And she started sort of the adoption rights movement herself. The social worker
Well,
kind of
she
got
became an
involved.
to the extent that
Mm-hmm.
they were called ethical
Mm-hmm.
adoption practices. Nonetheless,
Yes.
nobody was still looking at the whole thing
No,
going, why are we not trying to help the birth
no.
family preservation? That still wasn't on anyone's
But that's
agenda.
so like social workers went in to help people, help children, the
Hmm.
good ones, not the Georgia Towns of the world. And they really were that fogged, like brainwashed by the
Hmm.
system. I mean, that's just how powerful it was. The system that she started.
Yeah.
Isn't it
The
nuts?
system that Georgia, yeah, because I mean, the whole book, and we've talked about it before, how
Mhm.
Georgia managed to get these laws changed, and then it just became state by state. This is
Yeah.
what happened. Then there she gets into the fallout, the endurance, and that just right out the gate, the endurance of
Mhm.
Georgia's legacy of secrecy has allowed her to harm many more than the thousands she directly touched. She has hurt every American adopted since the beginning of the falsification of adoptees' birth certificates. She's hurt their birth parents, and she continues to hurt most of the 6 million adoptees and approximately 12 million birth parents alive today.
Wow.
Pretty powerful statement.
Pretty big numbers. And that was 10
Yeah.
years ago, so there's now more.
Here's an interesting thing too.
Mm.
So, kind of a way to wrap this up, that Barbara, when her daughter Beth started looking for
Mhm.
her parents, Barbara was like having lunch with a friend and started to tell friends, that she said, I was telling a friend about Beth's desire to find her mother. As was often the case, he was hurt for me,
Ah,
assuming Beth's search had to be a criticism of my parenting. A relative of his, he said, had adopted 2 children. The girl was fine and had absolutely no need to search. The boy, who needed to, rebelled, ran away, and was now estranged from his adoptive parents. Beth and I have a good relationship, I said. She simply needs to know. It's a separate issue, then, he said.
but
I
that
mean,
is,
this is 2013 and still.
I guarantee you that when I've had conversations with people, the look on their face is like, oh, that's not nice.
Mhm.
You're not doing the right thing. It's kind of like when you first get brave and you start to want to know things and you talk about with people, if they're not you or an adoptee you're friends with, the look, it's just the face like,
Mhm.
ah, Sarah.
Yep, I know.
Well,
I know.
Barbara was a strong woman. I'm really glad she wrote this and, highlighted this horrible woman to the world because gosh, I mean, when we learned about her, we knew some stuff, but now I'm like, wow.
Right, because Gabrielle in American Baby
Mm-hmm.
touched on it, but
Mm-hmm.
this was a deep dive, and I'm glad we did it. But happy to
Yeah.
move on. Move on. We'll announce next week
Yes.
what our book is for the next season.
Yeah, we're
Excited
firming
to
that
tell
up.
you. Yep,
All
firming that up.
right. What do we say? See you in a minute.
See you in a minute. You beat me to the punch, Louise.
Bye.
Bye.